Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We are very excited to be back and live streaming with Tony Fanchi. It's been since Unfathomable, which still saying that word is
a challenge.
Yes, there's something about my tongue that twists wrong. So it's been what since when's the last time we were here together? End of last year.
Last year, yeah.
So it's been a hot minute, but again, Tony Fanchi talking about a completely different game today, and I, as always, am Josh Massey. You're stuck with me. Enjoy it. So today we are talking about Unfinished Business, the first expansion for Outer Rim.
Star Wars Outer Rim, yeah.
I mean, like, I say first expansion, not that I know if there are any more. It is the first expansion for Outer Rim.
Factually correct.
Yes. So, yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about that today. Tony has given me this wonderful list of things that we're going to cover. So, don't be too distracted by me looking over at the sheet and making sure that we're doing everything in the right order so that we can show you everything in the best way possible for you. So yeah, should we just jump right into this?
I think so. I think that's why everyone's here.
Okay. So, do you want to break the seal or do I?
I've already done one of these, so I don't take a run at it.
Thanks. I like opening new games. Which is weird because at home I probably have at least 30 games that are still in shrink wrap that I haven't had time to play. Okay, that's gone. All right, so we have some Unfinished Business. And I do want to confirm, obviously we have the game. So you have finished your Unfinished Business.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay, it's not confusing at all.
Yeah.
Not confusing
Yeah.
at all. All right, so in the box we've got Punch. We've got a bag of O cards. We've got bag 2 O cards.
Lots and lots of cards.
We've got the gold dice, which you and I were just discussing, and everything that goes for the punch. Cool. So, we're just going to jump right into this. We're going to start by talking about characters.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what bags things are in, but you want to take one bag, I'll take the other.
I think they're in this one.
Okay. And I guarantee my wife is watching this at home shaking her head at me because I say bag because I'm from the Midwest. Or maybe it's just, is it more just Minnesota? It's a bag, not a bag. Sorry. All right, so yeah, we are going to start. Did you have the characters in there? Okay.
I do, yes.
Cool, so we're going to start by just talking about Chewbacca. So we'll jump into Chewbacca.
Should we talk about who's not in the expansion?
Oh, yes, good call. Thank you. See, I said I was going to look at my list, and I didn't look at the top thing on the list. We should talk about we should not talk about Mando? We don't talk about Mando.
We don't talk about Mando, no.
Oh, no. Okay.
So I know a lot of people were very excited and thinking that this expansion would include content from The Mandalorian, which would have been awesome. However, when we sat down and thought about the repercussions of putting Mando in the box, we quickly realized that there's such a gap in the time period between when this game takes place, which is sometime pre A New Hope, and when the Mandalorian series takes place, which is like a decade after Return of the Jedi, that it wouldn't make much sense to put Mandalorian content into this expansion. So if you're expecting to see Mandalorian content in here, I'm afraid you will not find it.
Okay. And that's fair. Like, timeline-wise, we don't know what's going on. Like,
yes.
I mean, sure, we would all love to write stories for Lucasfilm and have them make shows based on our games.
Yeah.
But not quite the way that works.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's good to know. I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit sad about it, but then you explained it, and it makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So, thank you for that. So, that's what's not in the box. But now we got a lot of stuff that is in the box, starting with our good friend, Chewbacca.
Yeah, and while I'm looking at Chewbacca, why don't you unshrink those tokens so we can take a look at a couple of contacts.
Okay.
Because if Chewbacca's on screen now, you should see that he's got a personal goal of gaining crew from orange contact tokens.
Ooh.
And many of you who've played the game will be like, what are orange contact tokens? These are a new contact type that are introduced in Unfinished Business. They start the game on every planet. So each planet now becomes its own contact token space. They have a lot of popular characters who are playable characters from the base game now appear as contacts that you can have if you're not using that character in the base game.
Okay.
Now, you don't know where a character is when it's a face-down contact token, obviously, so there will be contacts in the game, potentially, that match characters who are being played. If one of those contacts gets flipped up at any point, you simply remove it from the game, and whoever flipped it up gets to do another encounter if it was a result of an encounter that flipped it up.
Got it. So there's not a, we're playing these characters, remove those orange tokens from the game, randomize, and then place where you can.
Correct.
There's, okay, got it.
Yep.
Makes sense.
So looking at Chewbacca, he's a very simple character. He's got 3 attack and 5 hit points, which is high for a starting character. He also gives his ship a couple extra hull points, so he is a very sturdy character, and his ship is very sturdy because of him. And his personal goal, as I mentioned, was to try to find orange contacts in order to gain them as crew and gain a fame. It just so happens that 2 orange contacts are Han Solo and Lando Calrissian, which is where the thematic connection with Chewie wanting to gain crew from those orange contacts comes from. On the reverse side of Chewbacca's card, you'll find he gains a new ability to, after you roll dice for any reason, if you have at least 2 health remaining, you can suffer a damage on your character to turn one of your dice to a hit. So this is a very powerful ability in a lot of arenas. It's useful for delivering illegal cargo, which always want a hit in order to successfully deliver. It's useful in combat if you just need one more hit to win the combat. It's even useful in a skill check if you've got the skill and happen to roll double blanks or an eyeball or something. So he can help you in all of those situations. So he's a very versatile and very powerful character once you get him flipped to his backside.
Right, and as long as he has enough health.
Yeah.
As you said, it doesn't work if he's got 2 or less.
Yes, he cannot defeat himself
Right.
with this ability because that creates all sorts of rules headaches.
Right, and as somebody who is very closely, aka wrote the rules, yeah, you didn't want to do that to yourself.
Yes.
Makes sense. So I do want to say, before we move on to Hondo, which will be our next character, we're not covering everything that's going on here. Obviously, I mean, we showed you the stacks of cards. There are too many things. So we're going to talk about some of the really cool and thematic things, and then you'll maybe see some more spoilers come out as time goes on. But for today, it's just a taste. Just a little taste.
Yep. I like to point out that this expansion more than doubles the number of cards from the base game. So there's a lot of new content in here. So our next character, 2 out of the 8 new ones that you get, is Hondo Ohnaka. Hondo is a lot of fun because he's a very interactive character. One thing we set out, Corey Knitska and I, when we designed this expansion was to increase the player interactivity, the player interaction in the game. And Hondo is one of the reasons, one of the ways in which we buffed up that interactivity. So Hondo's ability you may recognize from his contact token, because he, like Chewbacca, was a contact in the base game. Chewbacca's ability was also lifted from his crew card. Hondo gets extra money when you complete cargo or complete jobs and deliver cargo.
How does he obtain this extra money, I might ask?
Well, he's a brilliant negotiator.
He's
always able to squeeze that extra little bit out of the deal.
/ thief.
Yes.
Okay.
He pockets that extra little bit that skims off the top, if you will.
Leave it to Hondo.
His personal goal is one that's a lot of fun. So it's an encounter ability, so you have to do it as your encounter on a turn. You choose another player in your space and test influence. And you might notice he has influence, so it's a fairly easy test for him. If you pass, that player must choose and give you one of their cargo, gear, or mod cards. Because Mr. Hondo has filched that card from the opponent. Place a gold token on that card. If you gain a card this way, gain 1 fame and flip his card.
Jeez.
So now you're running around with some hot goods that you've taken off of your opponent in the game. So on the flip side of Hondo, he has an ability that says another player in your space can fight a combat against you as their encounter. So they can try to get their stuff back. If they win, They may discard a gold token from one of your cargo, gear, or mod cards to take that card, so they get their stuff back. If you win, though, you get to flip your card back to the front side.
Which allows him to gain another fame for doing...
Steal another thing and gain another fame.
Oh my gosh.
So it's not an automatic thing that your opponent's going to automatically want to fight you to get their thing back. Because if they lose, that's really good for you and bad for them. Because you're just going to come back and steal something else.
So just in general, I would say working with Hondo is a bad deal for anybody but Hondo.
You do want to keep your distance from this guy.
Yes.
Hondo has one more thing on the backside of his card, which is an action that lets him spend 10,000 credits to flip his card, thus giving him the ability to steal again.
Got it.
But it costs him a lot of money to do it that way. Yeah. So if you give him the free one by trying to fight him and losing, that's a big boon for him.
Sweet. Rotten Hondo. Come on, Hondo. All right, cool. So, like Tony said, only 2 of the 8 characters today. The new playable characters, only 2. So we are going to jump on to the core worlds and the core world end caps. So we're going to go to the close-up camera here, and we are going to see if I can get that to sit in there in a useful manner. That's good. That's good, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about these.
Yeah, so the expansion doesn't include any new planets, but it does include the core worlds. So we have 2 new end cap pieces that go on the ends of the board, replacing the ones from the base game, and they have core world spaces, a trailing core space and a spinward core space. When you encounter one of those core world spaces, you have the option to try to cross the galaxy, going from one core world all the way to the other. So in the base game, the map is it's a half circle, but it's very linear because you cannot go from one end to the other. This allows you the ability to do that. It does take up your encounter because the effects that move you are encounter effects. And it is dangerous if you are not in league with the Empire. Passing through the core is heart of the Imperial territory, and so you really want to have positive reputation when you try to cross the core.
Right.
Otherwise, it becomes a lot harder and a lot more dangerous.
Okay, and for anybody who's looking at this, don't put them together like this. The game would be nowhere near as fun without
it's a very small
anything
board.
to do.
Yeah.
Cool.
So let's take a look at one of those core world encounters to let you see how they function.
Those?
I think they're probably over here.
Okay.
Yes. So we're going to take a look at core world encounter 16.
All right, encounter card number 16.
All right. So core world encounter cards are divided into two parts. We have the core world encounter on the top. So if you wind up on a core world, you don't have to cross. You can instead stay there and have an encounter at the core worlds. And some of the abilities that you'll find there are the ability to go shopping for very specific things, because easier to find things in the core worlds. The shops are a lot more full.
And shopping episodes are just the fun episodes, aren't they?
Yeah. If you want that one particular piece of gear or that one particular job, the core worlds is the place to go looking for it. Right. You also can get rewards for having either positive Imperial reputation or positive Rebel reputation by taking a little part in the Galactic Civil War that's going on.
Okay.
So you can see from this encounter that this is an example of one of those shopping effects that lets you look at the top 3 of any market deck, buy one of those cards, and then shuffle them in. So you really want to look for a particular thing out of a particular deck. This gives you a way to dig for that a little bit quicker. Then in the across the core, you can see that having positive Imperial reputation makes it very easy to cross the core. You just get to move on through, and you even get to have a core world encounter when you get to the other side. If you have negative or neutral Imperial reputation, though, it's a little bit harder. You have to give up some reputation with another faction in order to buy your way across.
Okay. Bail on the rebels for the imps. I don't know how I feel about this.
Otherwise, you're stuck where you're at. So
Right.
it's the price you got to pay.
You just gotta go all the way back around the outer rim to get to the other side. All right. Cool.
So that about covers how core worlds operate.
All right. Sweet. And obviously there are a lot more options than just that.
Yes.
So next we've got ambitions.
Ambitions.
We're going to talk about a couple of those.
Yes, ambitions they're an optional rule, but they're one of the things that I'm most excited about in this expansion. They basically they give you a story that will unfold as your character pursues their ambition in becoming famous. You still have to gain fame, but you also have to pass a few tests along the way. Those are a bigger sheet, so they're probably hiding under here in the hidden compartment. Don't throw your box away till you find these things.
Don't tell anybody about them. They're a secret.
So let me find the one that we're going to look at first. Renowned Smuggler. Is this one up on screen?
Yep.
Cool. All right. So these sheets are large. You select these at the start of the game in a sort of a draft fashion. So once everybody has picked their character, in reverse turn order, everybody gets to pick an ambition from those available. And there's always one more than the number of players available. So going last gives you a bit of an advantage because you can get the best matchup of your character with the ambition that you think will fit them.
Nice.
Ambitions at the top, you can see that they now define what you get to set up the game. So they will give you your credits, and most, if not all of them, give you some sort of either a gear, a mod, a job card, lots of different things that can give you a little bit of a boost in getting started on pursuing your ambition. You'll see just below the setup text, there is reminder text or kind of a cheat sheet of all the skills and types of abilities that you're going to need in order to pursue this ambition. So you can use that to inform your decision about which ambition is the most fitting for your character. You'll then see below there's a number of objectives that you have to go through. So looking at Renowned Smuggler, there are 2 objectives with a dash, which means you can do these in any order at any point during the game. And you'll track that using the gold tokens that come from the base game by putting those gold tokens on the right-hand side. So for instance, the Renowned Smuggler here, they want to deliver 3 illegal cargo in order to make a name for themselves. They also want to brave the Maelstrom by gaining an additional turn from encountering the Maelstrom space. The next goal on the card is an infinity symbol, because this is a thing that you must have active at the end of the game in order for you to win. So the Renowned Smuggler wants to upgrade their ship and mods so that they have a total of 30,000 credits invested in their ship. You gotta have a really nice ship if you want to be renowned as a smuggler. Once they've done all of those objective things and have reached the designated fame requirement, in the base game it was 10. We recommend 8 using ambitions because the ambitions tend to make the game just a little bit longer. Once you meet those criteria, you can then do the game-winning condition, which is the bottommost effect. So for the Renowned Smuggler, they are going to be trying to smuggle Kyber crystals from the core worlds all the way to Kessel. And Kyber crystals are highly sought after, so the player has to set their reputation with each faction to negative, meaning all of the patrols are going to be looking for them. And at the start of each of that player's turns, their opponents get to move patrols toward them to try to block their path. So this is just one kind of end game goal that you have to do in order to achieve your ambition and gain victory in the game. The goal that we wanted to set out to accomplish with the ambitions is that we wanted to make the end game just a little more tense. We didn't want the game to be able to end on just, oh, I delivered this cargo for my 10th fame, game over. It makes it so that there's more tension in the end game. There's more of a question. You don't see an inevitable winner coming up several turns ahead and just have to play it through. There's always something that can get in the way and block victory when you're using these ambitions.
Interesting. And when you're using them, these aren't required.
Yes,
It's just another way to add something cool to the game.
Yep.
And I mean, in my opinion, this is better. So good job.
Yeah, we made them optional because they do add a bit more of a learning curve to the game. So if you're playing for the very first time, you may just want to play to the fame victory condition as usual. But once players are more familiar and feeling comfortable in the game, I highly recommend giving Ambitions a try.
Nice.
So I want to take a look at just one other of the, I think there are 8 ambitions if I'm remembering correctly, and that is Servant of the Emperor. So rather than becoming a decorated smuggler, well-renowned smuggler, you can also become very in bed with the Empire.
Oh my gosh.
Which I know Josh is very excited to do. So the Servant of the Empire has a special ability on the top row that lets them spend 10,000 credits while they're on an Imperial planet to gain Imperial reputation. It's pricey, so you're probably better off trying to get your Imperial reputation, which you need for your third goal, from somewhere else. But if you really cannot find any other way to gain Imperial reputation, you can spend some credits to bribe your way into their good graces.
Okay, so I've got a question to follow up with that.
Yeah.
That infinity symbol, you said you need that to be able to trigger the end of the game.
Yeah.
So if I happen to go down in Imperial reputation, I lose that token,
Yeah.
right?
And
Okay,
you'll
it doesn't
have to get
remain
it
because I
back.
got it once.
Right.
So that's where maybe purchasing it will help.
Yes.
And,
Yep.
Okay.
It's an always on thing. You
Yep.
have to have it in order to move up. They're not going to make you a servant of the Emperor if you're just kind of neutral to them.
Right. I'll help you when it's convenient for me. No.
So, unlike the renowned smuggler, the Servant of the Emperor has 2 objectives that you must complete in order. The first one being encountering a core world space, which can be either doing a shopping kind of encounter there or crossing the galaxy, crossing the core worlds. Either way, you're making contacts in the Empire and moving yourself toward being one of their loyal servants. The second one is kind of a fun and interactive thing where you're looking for either a rebel crew, a rebel contact, or any player with positive rebel reputation. You're looking for rebels and reporting them to the Empire. So if you happen to be in a space with one of them, you can use the action on this sheet to move the Imperial patrol towards that person, which could be very bad if they happen to have negative Imperial reputation, and then complete that goal. As I mentioned, you have to have positive Imperial reputation. You also need to have negative Rebel reputation. It's always easy to get negative reputation with somebody because you just go fight one of their patrols. So that's an option that's always out there.
Nice.
Finally, you have to discover the location of the hidden Rebel base. That is the win game condition for the Servant of the Emperor. So basically, you have to be in a space with a level 3 or level 4 Rebel patrol. You might notice that those Rebel ships happen to be the ones that you can actually go aboard. They're the lower Rebel patrols are all single-person pilot or fighters, so you can't obviously climb aboard there with this pilot and say, "Hey, can I take a look at your nav logs?" And then you'll resolve a special job card that I'm not going to spoil here. That is in the databank deck that will involve various steps as you go about trying to find those Rebel base locations.
All right. So, the first, before I get to a couple questions from the chat, they're on Dantooine. Obviously.
Obviously.
Okay, so a couple questions from the chat that came through.
Yeah.
The credits that you gain from the ambition cards, do those replace the credits that you would normally start the game
Replace
with?
the starting credits.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. So that is not in addition to, you don't just get a ton of credits. Nice try. Nice try. And then how do the ambitions work for solo play?
For solo, you can use them in the solo game. You will randomly draw 2 of them and choose one to use for yourself. The AI that you're playing against will not use an ambition. It will just be going for a fame goal that is 2 higher than your fame goal.
Got it. Okay, so there is a way to make it easier to win with your additional challenge because they need the extra fame.
Yep.
That makes sense because otherwise it would be way too easy to lose.
Well, I mean, for those who find the AI too easy, that is a way to make it more challenging, is just to have each of you have the same fame requirement.
Okay. So home rules. Make it more difficult if you like.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So now we've got favors and player bounties.
So favors and player bounties are a couple more additions that we put in the game in order to increase the player interaction. So let's talk about favors first. We're going to throw the player bounties or the new reference card up on the screen so you can see that. And do you have the reference cards or do I have the reference cards?
I might.
Nope, they're here. They're here.
Okay, so I know we're showing the card right now, but what the heck, Tony? You take the deck that has everything in it. I'm just sitting here with cards in front of me doing nothing. Nothing.
Well, that's just how it ended up. So, the expansion comes with new reference cards. The reverse side of this is the player turn, which is very much similar to the base game player turn. The only difference on that side is that you can now cycle up to 2 cards from a market deck each turn when you're taking a market action. But those cards both have to come from the same deck. The reason for that was with the addition of new cards into each of the market decks, it becomes harder to find the thing that you're looking for. So this lets you dig a little bit deeper to find the right piece for your makeup.
Makes sense.
So looking at the other side, player bounties are... So in the base game, there are jobs that let you go after a player with negative reputation and kind of serve as a little bit of a bounty. With the characters being introduced in this game that have bounty cards in the base game, and with the bounty cards we're introducing in this game that apply to characters in the base game, it became possible for players to hunt other players in the game as a bounty. So the process for doing so is very similar to a normal bounty. You don't have to find their contact because you know where they are. You just have to go to their space, fight a combat with them. If you lose the combat, you hold on to their bounty and get to try again in the future. If you win, though, you get rewards indicated on the reference card here. You completely ignore anything printed on the bounty cards. And instead, you'll get 5,000 credits and a fame. You'll also gain some reputation with a faction that didn't like that player who you hunted for, but you'll lose some reputation with the factions that did like that player. So providing players with a route to pursue other players as a bounty was one way that you can increase the interactivity in your game. I will note that if you don't want somebody else hunting you with your bounty, you can always buy your own bounty and hold on to it just to keep it out of other players' hands.
Can you have more than one bounty at a time?
Yeah, there are 2 bounty / job slots on your character
So you can
board.
buy your own and someone else's.
It'll take up one of your slots, though, so it's not always the best option.
Yeah.
But when you discard it, replacing it with something else, it always goes to the bottom of the deck, so it'll be longer before it shows up again.
All right. Good to know.
Favors are another optional rule, like ambitions, that are more geared towards players who know the game already. The goal for favors is to give players more room to negotiate. So in the base game, you were always able to trade items when you're on the same planet with somebody, and you always had the ability to pay bribes to the other players to get some sort of deal worked out. We found that didn't happen a whole lot, so the favors give you some more concrete things to trade for, rather than swapping credits for items that you can buy in the game. So there are 4 different options for favors. A player can get 1 favor in a turn. You can't get more than that. And favors have to be offered willingly from the other players. So you can ask them, they can turn you down, but you can offer to give them either credits or a new thing that we're introducing in this expansion, which are debt tokens, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the favors that you can request are advice. You can borrow another player's skill for 1 skill test, which can come in quite clutch if you run into a skill test on a job that you didn't quite have discovered on one of your crew before you went into that job. You can ask them for some combat strategy, which lets you roll an additional die during a combat. So if you want to make sure that you catch this bounty this turn, you can say, hey, you want to tell me how to find this person's weak spots?
Yeah.
Roll an additional die in that combat. You can get an endorsement from that player, borrowing one of their positive reputations for a turn. That's good if you need to fly through a particular patrol or
Get through the
have
core worlds.
the core worlds. Yep, if you want to make sure that you've got the Empire on your side when you're passing through the core, that's a good thing to do there. Or you can ask for a shortcut, which will increase your hyperspeed by 1. So if you're 1 space away from getting to that planet you really need to get to this turn, you can pay somebody to get you that extra bump that you need to get there.
Nice. So favors in single player. I'm just going to ask this question. This isn't from the chat. I can ask the AI deck, and if they don't answer, is that a yes?
No, you can't. You can't ask favors from the AI player. No. So we will throw one of these favor tokens up on the screen.
I mean, green's my favorite color, but the orange one is the coolest looking.
So
we'll get a close up of that.
We put 4 of these favor tokens. You might notice that the color scheme matches the color scheme of each of the player boards, and that's how you know whose favor token you're holding. So at the start of the game, everybody gets the the debt token that belongs to their player board. And then they can pass that debt token out to another player in exchange for anything, in exchange for credits, in exchange for a favor, in exchange for trading goods of some sort. And what a debt token does is it requires the player who owns the token to give you a favor when you give that debt token back to them. So it's a guaranteed favor in the future, which can be very powerful if you have the very right point in which to use it. Like if your final ambition goal requires a skill you don't have yet, but you have a favor from Josh here, that is a perfect time to cash in that chip because he can't say no at that point. He must accept that debt token back.
Right. So I'm going through some scenarios here. So let's say that I have your debt token. You are in debt to me.
Yep.
And then I pull a bounty for you. I can go fight you and say that you have to tell me your weakness
You could,
while fighting you.
Yep.
And I can roll that extra die. That is hilarious. And I love it. Hey, which knee is your bum knee? Left? Okay, great. Thanks.
Exactly.
Okay. Spectacular. All right. So that's what we got for favors and player bounties. Now we've got some of the double-ended cards and the reveal tokens, which are probably in that stack.
These would be market cards. It looks like you've got the market cards with you. So cargo are going to be in that stack.
Cool.
So we're looking for astromech droid parts. So another new element of this expansion are double-ended cards. This was something that Corey came up with that I thought was just so brilliant when I first saw the examples that he put together of this. When he realized that a lot of the cards in this game really are only half a card because half of it is intended to be slid underneath your ship or your player board.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense that, we could use the other half of that card for things. So the astromech droid parts is an example of a series of cargo cards that are double-ended in this way. So the droid parts cannot be bought on Ord Mantell because they have to be delivered there, just like any normal cargo you see in the base game. However, instead of being done with that card once you deliver it, you rotate it 180 degrees. So now that you're taking astromech droids from that droid factory you just delivered to and delivering them to their destination, in this case, Naboo. So one thing about these cargo cards is the reverse side of each of these is always on the opposite end of the galaxy. So it's going to take you a while to get there. But you can see from the reward, 12,000 credits. That is a lot of credits for a non-illegal cargo. So if you have the stick-with-itness to actually cross the galaxy again to deliver that to its destination, it's a very big windfall. The other thing I like about these rotating cargo cards is that they mean you have fewer market actions that you have to spend collecting cargo. because you can use this cargo twice. And so you can spend those other market actions actually buying the things you need to achieve your fame goals or your ambition goals.
Okay, and I was looking through cards, but I do want to just confirm. When I'm done with step 1, I can just be done with it and drop the card.
Yes,
If I
just like any card,
Right.
once you finish the first step, you can always sell it back. It's worth 1,000 credits, so you can sell it back to the market in order to buy a new cargo of some sort.
Cool.
These double-ended cards show up in basically all of the decks. Well, there are no double-ended jobs or bounties because those don't make a lot of sense.
Sure.
But there are lots of gear mods and even luxury cards that are double-ended. One of those gear are the bowcaster, which is a weapon that a lot of you will know from as being Chewbacca's weapon of choice. So this is a weapon that on one end gives you +2 combat power. Ground combat power, which for a price of 4,000 is a bargain. However, once you've used the bowcaster, it rotates to its other end, and then you have to reload your bowcaster, which it takes Wookiee level strength in order to do that. So when it's on its reverse side, you have to test strength. If you pass, you get to rotate it back to the other side. If you fail, you can spend some credits to find somebody stronger than you to rotate it and reload it for you.
Nice.
So that's a fun weapon to have. The custom paint job is found in the luxury deck. You can get your ship tricked out with this custom paint job on your ship. It says after you fight a combat, if you're not defeated, you rotate the card. So fighting other ships is going to get you known throughout the galaxy as somebody who likes to duke it out in space. And that will get you a notorious paint job, which will give you 1 additional fame. However, it also puts a target on your back because it gives your other players in your space the ability to fight a ship combat against you. And if they defeat you in a ship combat, or if your ship is defeated in any means, you must rotate your notorious paint job back to a custom paint job. You're not so notorious once you've been blown up a time or two.
So, probably not an easy thing to do in a board game, but you have essentially found a way to add skins to unfinished business. Good job, Tony. Good job. Proud of you.
Thank you.
All right. Cool. So now, I mean, one of these is going to be one of my favorite parts about this chat. Mm-hmm. The other one's great too. Don't get me wrong, but as the Rebels fan that I am,
yes,
we're going to start talking about some of the new ships.
Yes,
There
are 6 new ships in the game. There's one at each credit value of 5, 10, 15, and 20,000. We also have 2 new ships at 25,000, so very high-end ships. One of those ships happens to be the VCX 100 Light Freighter, which many of you will recognize as the Ghost from Star Wars Rebels. The 25K ships are very powerful. The Ghost here has 7 speed, 7 hyperspeed, 5 attack, and 5 hull. It also has lots and lots of slots, so 3 crew slots, a cargo slot, a cargo or mod slot, and then a mod slot as well. And its ship goal is to encounter a level 3 or level 4 Imperial patrol. So you gotta have a run-in with the Empire in order to flip your ship to the named Ghost side. So that's a ship that we were very excited to get into the game. Hera's now got her own ship that she can fly around as perhaps a character.
No spoilers. Quick question, because this did come in from the chat. So when we showed the custom paint job, the question came in, what is the 1 to 4?
Oh, so yes, there are, if we can flip back to the custom paint job, that would be great. There's a new market icon on all the cards in the market. So this icon indicates that just like the patrol icon next to it, whenever you flip one of these cards face up after buying something from the market, so not from burying, if the player count is in the range indicated on the icon, so in this case, between 1 and 4 players, so any player count for this one, the current player chooses a face-down contact token on their planet and flips it up.
Oh, okay. The imagery makes sense now.
Yeah, so the purpose of this is we found that in the base game, it often falls to the bounty hunters to do the contact token flipping. The players who are not bounty hunters are incentivized not to flip contact tokens because they don't want to help the bounty hunters find who they're looking for.
Yeah.
So these tokens help to kind of make more contact tokens flip face up over the course of the game, allowing bounty hunters to more easily find their bounties, but also allowing job-based characters to find the characters with the skills that they need to complete their jobs.
Cool.
I like to think of it as the chance encounter icon because it's like you ran into this person while you were walking through the market looking at the goods.
Right. And then looking at the bowcaster, that's only 1 and 2 players is when that will reveal the token.
Yep.
So
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah, these will trigger more often in games with fewer players because in games with more players, you obviously have more players who are already flipping tokens up.
Right. Right. Cool. And I know I said no spoilers, but Hera was already in the announcement article.
Okay.
You know that. We know that.
Yep.
All right. Cool. So moving back onto ships, we do have another one.
This is not the one I was looking for. We're looking at the Rogue class.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I know we talked about that one on the call the other day, but that was me bringing it up, not you. My bad.
So the Rogue class Porax 38 Starfighter. The reason I wanted to talk about this one is it's a bit of a special card in the ship deck. It is the only ship in the game that has no crew slots, which you might be thinking, what? How am I going to win without crew? I will point out this is a 5,000 credit ship, so very cheap, something you can get early in the game.
Quick question, though.
Yes.
What? How am I going to win without crew?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. The way you're going to do that is by being a very self-reliant player. So a lot of bounty hunters will like this ship because bounty hunters don't really need crew as much as other characters. And this ship helps out bounty hunters by giving them an additional gear slot.
Okay.
So you can really load up on your gear. It also gives you, on the bottom, in place of your crew slot, it gives you a job or bounty slot. So you can carry around extra bounties for just in case you run into that one person.
All right.
It's also the only 5,000 credit ship that has 4 space combat. So it's a very combat heavy ship for its price.
Right.
The named version, the ability on it is very powerful as well. I won't spoil that here. I'll let you all discover that on your own. But if you look at the ship goal, you'll see that this is a ship that you want to be fighting ship combats with. So you may need to add a mod or two to make sure that you survive the ship combats. But with the 4 combat value, it's very easy to take down those level 1 patrols.
Right. Nice. So you take a little bit of a hit without having a crew, but makes up for it in the end. I like that. That's super cool. And it's cheap. I'm not mad about that either. All right. So those are the 2 ships of the... How many new ships do we got here? 6? So much more to look at. Now we're going to go into AI opponents.
Yes.
So you did have one that you wanted to talk about.
Yep. I think those are the purple ones over there.
Yep.
Or I'm sorry, the pink ones. The pink ones are the bounty hunters. So, in the base game, you could only play smuggler or job-related characters as your opponents in an AI game, in a solo game. In this expansion, we include both cards that let you play against the bounty hunters. We also introduce new AI cards that are character-specific. So in the base game, all of the characters you were playing against in a solo game were basically the same. They really, for the most part, you ignored any skills or abilities that they had on their character card. These new AI cards are intended to give each different opposing character its own flavor, its own feel. So if we take a look at the Boba Fett AI card here, you can see, looking at his action step, that he has his character's ability of peeking at contacts implemented in that spot. He gets to reveal contacts on his space, which, unlike his character card, it reveals it for everyone, but the AI player then gets to either encounter that character if that was the bounty they were looking for, or he gets to look at another bounty on that planet. So Boba Fett, just like his playable character, is very efficient at hunting out and finding his bounties.
Cool. And we're not going to talk about any of the others because you get to figure that out for yourselves.
I will point out that if you want, in a solo game, you can play against two opponents now, one of them using the smuggler deck from the base game, the other using the bounty hunter deck from the expansion.
Interesting. A solo 3-player game, kind of. Trying to do that math in my head, that hurts. All right, so now we have a couple interactive jobs.
Let's look at the job cards themselves and the tan one there.
I'm grabbing the wrong ones.
So talking more about interactivity in the game, we've introduced some new jobs that require having multiple players in the same space. And there are two flavors of these jobs. There are the player versus player type, like honest robbery, which we'll show you first, where you are looking to get into somebody else's space so that you can encounter them to try to do something nasty to them. So honest robbery, you're trying to steal something from that person.
Hondo. Sorry, I don't know what that was.
But you don't even have to be Hondo. This lets anybody steal something from
anybody,
yeah.
Even you can be Hondo.
Yes. So the honest robbery is the aggressive, mean kind of interaction, but there's also a more friendly Care Bear style of interaction with sail barge sabotage, where you're actually working together for a common cause. So the sail barge sabotage has, unlike most jobs, it has 2 destination planets. You can be on either one, making it a little bit easier to coordinate with your other players to meet in the right place. And then you go through the job with that other player, borrowing their skills, each of you testing things. And then if you succeed, you both get a reward from that. So it creates a little bit of incentive to try to work together and play nice for just this little bit at least.
Right. Unless one of the two of you is Hondo. I'm going to keep going back to Hondo.
Yeah.
Because yes, you're working together, but then he's going to steal your portion of it. Every time. Every single time. Nobody learns. Okay, cool. So we've just got a couple more things that we're going to talk about. Doing great on time. So we've got passengers.
So passengers are a new type of cargo. They work roughly the same as cargo. They take up a cargo slot. You're going to make your poor passengers ride along in your cargo compartment. But similar to illegal cargo, these do qualify as illegal cargo. You have to roll a die in order to succeed with these cargoes. But in this case, instead of rolling the die when you deliver it, you have to roll the die when you gain that card, when you try to buy it. So for instance, the Rebel Trader here makes you roll a die. If you get a hit, you'll get to gain that cargo. If you don't, you'll, much like the illegal cargo, if you fail on that, you have to resolve a bit of an encounter. This does the same thing. You'll have a bit of an encounter trying to get this Rebel Trader to get aboard your ship so you can smuggle them to the Imperial Patrol, which is the destination for these passengers. Gaining the rewards from delivering these passengers will get you reputation with that faction, which is good because you'll be in the space with their patrols, so you want to make sure that patrol's not fighting you the turn you deliver it. They don't turn around and say, oh, you just delivered this person to us, we're going to blow you up anyway because we don't like your face.
Fair. All right, cool. So we do have one more thing that we're going to talk about, but before we get there, because we're getting close to the end, we've got a couple questions that I will be answering from the chat. But if you have anything that you want to ask it now, or forever hold on to your stuff so that Hondo doesn't take it. because he will. Sorry, I'm leaning into Hondo today. I don't know why.
Yes. All right, so the last thing I wanted to talk about was the nav deck. So in the base game, nav points were not really places you want to end up most of the time. Those encounters can be particularly punishing at times. So we wanted to give a bit more encouragement to players to go out and commit space piracy. So the expansion introduces a number of new piracy-themed encounters that you can have at nav points. So the one we're looking at here lets you fight a combat against a bulk freighter that happens to be passing through this part of space. If you win, you get some credits and fame out of it. So it's very, very lucrative to go hunting for these types of piracy opportunities. If you happen, though, not to be in a position to fight a combat, you can instead do trade with that cargo ship and pay them some credits to buy some cargo from the market deck. So it makes up for your having lost out on a market step because you were stuck in deep space.
Right. Nice. Gives it a little more benefit to being out there.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Well, like I said, we did have a couple questions. So I'm going to be asking you a couple of those, and then as more, if more, come in, we'll ask those as well. First one, I mean, just looking at what's out here, I think I can answer the question. Somebody did ask if all of this new content would fit in the core box, and I'm going to say yes.
Yes, I have gotten my copy of this, and I have managed to fit it in. I will say, for those of you who really want to hold on to the inserts that the game comes with, I don't think that's going to work. I think you're going to have to chuck that. But I've managed to fit everything into my box, even sleeved.
So it can be done and sleeved, which is important because that makes every card twice as thick.
Yep.
And is the only way to game. I can't game without sleeves. I feel like I'm going to ruin everything I touch. Okay, cool. So that's one. Somebody asked if this expansion has increased dice mitigation at all.
Not particularly. We haven't introduced any new mechanics or really very many cards that let you re-roll dice. I mean, any more so than was in the base game. The base game has mods and things, characters that let you re-roll dice and things like that. But there still is that element of randomness to the game.
Okay. And then I think we can answer this without giving anything away. Or anything that we don't want to give away. Are there any of the orange contact tokens that aren't from the base game?
There are, yeah, there are, I want to say 2 as I'm looking at it. I think there are 2 characters who don't appear in the base game at all that show up as contact tokens, and we'll keep that as a prize.
Yep. Don't look. I know you don't have an angle, but don't look. Okay. So this one, somebody saw on the article that Cad Bane's ability lowers the fame he earns. Does that apply to his personal goal?
To his personal goal, no. I believe the ability says that it reduces the fame he gets except from abilities on his own card.
Okay. Makes sense. And I just got the notification that was answered in the chat. So somebody probably just said what you said in text form. Good job, fans. Okay, and then one question about Boba Fett's ability and working with player bounties.
Specifically, does it work with player bounties?
Yeah, how is Boba Fett's ability supposed to work with player bounties?
So if Boba Fett flips up, or if any AI flips up a token matching the character that the player is playing, they will similarly remove that token from the game and then get to do the same effect again. So if Boba Fett happens to flip up the token matching your character using his ability, he will then get to flip up another token. If the question is, does the AI come after a player with a player bounty? The answer is yes.
Okay.
The AI will hunt you down if it ends up with the bounty for your character.
All right. Sounds great. And those are the questions that we have. So now is the time where I say, thank you, Tony. this was great. And I hope that you all liked the images up on screen. We figured that was a little bit easier to see when we're showing off that much stuff than just this close-up tray. So thank you. And thank all of you for joining. As always, we love having you around. We love getting the questions thrown at us, and we just like showing stuff off. Like I said, I like opening new boxes and going through content. It's great.
Yeah,
So
super excited for this to get out into the public.
Yep, and we're not too far off.
Yeah.
Not too far. You'll get it. Cool. Well, that is what we have for you today. So thank you all again for joining, and we look forward to seeing you in just a few weeks on the next one. Bye.